Good morning. I am thrilled to be here with you all today. Great energy in the room. So nice to see people talking, engaging, learning new things, even if they are private. I have a wonderful relationship with Paloma. I am Purpose's Chief Marketing Officer. And if you're not familiar with Purpose, we operate in the wealth and asset management space. We are actually one of Canada's leading or top 100 employers in the small and medium-sized business category. And this year, we actually also achieved one of the top employers in the Greater Toronto Area, and that is in large part due to Paloma's leadership. So just a round of applause for Paloma.
The team effort.
I love the conversation today and what this summit is all about. As the Chief Marketing Officer, my mandate is really to ensure that the experience that we create for our clients, our customers, our investors, and our employees all ladders back to what we promise as a brand. And I have an amazing partnership with Paloma and shared accountability on making sure that that employee experience is memorable, that we engage our employees in the most effective ways, and that we are creating systems together that deliver on that expectation and that shared experience that we both feel so passionately about. What is hugely transformative to our business today at Purpose is really AI and how disruptive it is and how we think about our organizational systems, our business practices, how we operate, and what experience ultimately we are delivering to our employees and the agents that we're also creating. So much to talk about with you all today. But one of the things that I admire most about Paloma is how deep she thinks, how she is willing to do very difficult and hard research to truly understand and unpack how people think, what motivates them. I love the question earlier about book recommendations. If you ever need a book recommendation, Paloma is your person. So enough talking from me. I want to talk, I want you to hear more from Paloma and something that she's deeply passionate about, which is how behavioral science is really something that drives how she approaches her role as Chief People Officer at Purpose, and what that means in terms of the systems, experiences, and processes that she builds in her role.
Thank you, Meghann, and hi, everyone. Very exciting to be here today. Before I go into that very interesting question, I'll say we do employee net promoting score surveys at Purpose twice a year, and what I love about it is every single time, the top two positive feedback that we get is always about our people and our culture. And I have the privilege of working with phenomenal human beings, and I have one here. So thank you, Meghann, for joining me today. What I've always found curious is the fact that when you look at the academic world, and when you look at areas such as behavioral science, we have made so much progress in the last 20, 30, 40 years. And when you look at everything that has been discovered, and the part of it that has actually been converted and brought into the corporate world, it is minimum. So we're sitting at, on top of a gold mine, I think. We have an ability right now to really use science, and by the way, not only behavioral science, neuroscience as well, to understand human beings from a more scientific point of view and look at our processes, our policies, our systems, and think, how can they be different? Really, how can they be more scientific? How can we adapt what we do today to what science has uncovered and we're just not tapping into? And I think it's also important when you're in the process of doing this for you to understand a lot about the people and the culture that you have, as well as what is your strategy. For example, at Purpose, our talent strategy is we want to operate always as trailblazers in the mix of the financial industry sector and technology. And we need individuals who are curious, who are first principle thinkers, who have initiative. This is the very specific profile that we look for. And who will join us and grow at Purpose more than they would anywhere else. This is basically how we compete and we win in the market. It's through growth. It's what we call career acceleration, right? If you were to imagine that someone's career is like that, they would join Purpose, and then their career slope would just increase. So in order to do this, we need to understand how do we use science, not only best practices, not only gut feeling, but science to make sure that we get this effect, which then resonates to how we compete and win in the market as Purpose.
Paloma, I love that, that philosophy around how we use science to inform the systems that we build. This conference is centered around the experiences we create. So talk a little bit about how you go from the science of how to build a system into what that translates to the employee experience that we're ultimately creating.
So I think that a good example is learning and development, right? Like go back to our strategy. If we are going to be the place where people join us to grow more than they would anywhere else, our muscle of learning and development has to be one of the best we have. So, of course, we have a dedicated person to learning and development internally. She's great. She goes by HD. HD, part of what she does, part of what we do is, yes, we have the traditional learning and development in certain areas. For example, we are a company that operates in a regulated industry. So we need to provide compliance, trainings that are mandatory, all of that. So yes, we do that. But we do so much more. If we really want to accelerate the career slope, something that we have to understand is, how does human cognition works? How do we change our learning and development structure based on the science on human cognition to really create the content and the formats, the systems on how to deliver this to our people that exponentially increases their ability to learn? It's no longer about just doing a webinar or an info session or a lunch and learn. Nothing against those things. They're great, but they're great within a very deliberate structure of what we're trying to achieve. So right now, a huge project that we are conducting, for example, is we're big on AI, right? Like one of our values is innovation. So we have adopted AI very early on. We have deployed Claude to everyone in the company. No limits at this point. So no limitation for tokens. Basically, we're using the power of something that we didn't have in the past to work as a science researcher. We've consolidated as much as we can on what has been uncovered about human cognition, and now we are redesigning our programs to cater for that. This is how we really accelerate the career slope. And what I would say is, we have a phenomenal founder and CEO. His name is Som Safe. He's always challenging us, which is appreciated, right? Like in a culture of growth, feedback is a foundational pillar. And something that he mentioned to me recently that I love is the following. We're seeing ourselves more and more as a product area. You're designing a product. Whenever you design a product, the client, the customer it should be in the heart of everything we do, right? Like, so this is another way that we use the human being at the center of what we create to really cater for that. And what he said, our CEO said in the process of challenging me is like, Paloma, you have to be careful about products that you give away for free, which is what we're doing, right? Like we have learning and development. We're not charging for people to use our learning and development structure. If you're not charging for something, you don't really know how much your customers value it. So you have to create a learning and development area, as well as any other products that you create as part of our people and culture function, that they are so good that people would be willing to pay money for them. So this is very challenging, but it is a North Star. And I think that understanding, kind of hacking into human cognition is part of this, right? Like imagine joining an organization and having an experience with learning and development that people feel actually hungry and excited to be part of. So this is one of the ways that we've been using science to, especially through the human angle, to redesign the systems and also the products that we've been creating.
I love that. I love the whole reframe around, and again, we have these conversations with Sam, our founder, that, our employees are a representation of all of our products. And so we have to design an experience for them that is worth paying for. And it really changes the balance of, employees as they are to drive our mission forward versus our mission being what we put into our employees to get the best out of all of them, which is something that, again, is a shared passion between you and I. I want to go back to the topic of AI, because it is something that we're all reading in the headlines right now. We're all seeing, the threat of, what will it mean for the workforce in the future? And we're hearing a lot of headlines around, massive layoffs in big companies.
Yeah.
How are we thinking about this differently at Purpose? And unpack sort of our philosophy around AI a little bit more, please.
I'll be happy to. So go back. One of the fundamental things that we have is what we call a growth culture, right? It's our ability to accelerate the learning curve. Through that angle, we've designed, for example, very early on, we wanted to sit down with our people and talk basically one-to-one about what we believed AI to be and how we believed that it was part of our value systems. Again, innovation is one of our values, courage is another, and how we wanted people to think about it. So we've designed internally our own AI Foundations training, which was basically I sat down with every single team individually in the company to deliver that. And as part of that conversation, so my background is in law. I used to be a corporate lawyer. And something that you see in the legal world, especially before we had the internet, you would have these lawyers who would invest thousands and thousands of dollars in building these beautiful libraries. They would have all the thick volumes, all the precedents, they would have it all. So then internet comes out. And some individuals are looking at that and saying, like, I'm not going to touch that. I have all of this knowledge here. I got the best books. This internet thing has a bunch of fake information in it. Connectivity is not reliable. And you have something called a virus. No, I'm not going to deal with this. And it has always impressed me how much you can say only truths and still get to the wrong conclusion, right? Like every single thing that this person thought about or said is true, but it should not be a conclusion to, I'm not going to touch that. That lawyer that didn't adapt and use internet will be out of business today. And this is part of the ethos that I try to communicate to our people. I asked a question. By the way, question to you. Can anyone here get your work done without the internet? That is what I believe AI is going to be sooner rather than later. And this is what we're communicating to our people. When you think about a culture of growth, every single tool that you can give to someone that exponentially increase their development is something that we want to invest in. And part of that philosophy is if you're using AI to become not only more efficient, yes, efficiency is part of it, but it's not the only thing. You can also become more you can deliver more value, right? Like way more value. So if you're using AI from that point of view, you get time back on your day, right? Like a ton of time back. That time back is what gives us the ability to go and do something that before I started using Claude, I usually couldn't do. I looked at my backlog. I looked at all of the projects that were amazing, that I didn't have the time to do, and now out of a sudden I could. And that's what I want for our people. I want them to have access to time to learn, to continue to accelerate their career slope, and to be able to do way more interesting work, way more innovative, because they're getting the time back. So part of our philosophy was also like, we had individuals who automated themselves out of a job. That's wonderful. That's what we want, because that gives us two pieces of information. One, that person speaks AI. They can work with that. They have the skill set. Second, they have the value of like innovation, courage. Those individuals are the ones that were opening a ton of doors for them to continue to grow in the organization. So our approach is the following. We always provide our people a chance to get back on track. We're not going to let people go because they were automated out of a job, right? Like quite the opposite. That is a signal that they should stay with us. Are we going to have job losses coming out of this? Probably, yes. When? When we give people the chance to level up and they don't take it, right? Like we are seeing individuals who are saying, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not interested. And it's not that we're going to let people go because they're saying, I'm not going to touch that. Actually, what is going to happen is we have a high-performance culture. So we have a performance bar that is really high. If someone was performing above this bar in the past, before AI, and now is saying, I don't want to use AI, naturally that bar is going to go up because a lot of people are using it. So now expectations regarding performance have just increased. And that person will end up at some point in time falling below the bar. So that will happen. right? Like, and we are okay with making difficult decisions to make sure that we have the right people in the right seat. But our philosophy, more than anything else, is we want people to use AI to grow with us, and we will create the opportunities for them to continue to be part of our team.
I love that, Paloma, and I love how we're making all of these tools accessible. You know, HT and yourself are leading the upskilling sort of engine within Purpose to ensure that everyone has access, that that mindset and philosophy is clear, and that we're encouraging all those behaviors. How do you think about this from a hiring perspective? You know, it's one thing to do that with your employees inside, and you can sort of see the difference in where people, you know, gravitate towards in terms of either adopting or resisting. But when you're bringing new people in, especially in roles where maybe AI wasn't native to what they did before, how do you make sure that we're bringing people in that will, you know, adapt to the mindset that we're creating inside our organization today?
That is a very important question, because I don't necessarily look at the market right now and think, oh, you need to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G in terms of AI for us to hire you. What we're actually looking for are certain underlying traits, right? Like curiosity. A lot of our hiring process is focused on curiosity, on first principle thinking, right? Like a lot of what, like the conversations that we're having internally is, the conversations that we're having internally are about, have you ever seen individuals go about doing their work almost as if they're checking boxes, right? Like I'm not judging, I'm not saying that like wrong or right, I'm saying it is something that we see at times. Those individuals that are sometimes on autopilot, they're not showing the appetite to go and explore with new tools. They're not showing the critical thinking that I look on for people on in terms of first principles, right? Like this is what we hire for. The AI, we can teach. As long as someone can learn and is willing to learn and is curious to learn, we can get that done, right? Like this is part of our muscle. I'm more interested in the other characteristics. Now I'm going to say something that is a bit out of the box, so bear with me. It's one of the hypotheses that I have. So at Purpose, we conduct this event around like September, October that we call the CEO event. We invite some of our clients, and they go through a day of conference that is amazing. We get some of the top CEOs in the country to deliver the one or two or three things that they believe that they have mastered, so we can learn from them. Again, part of learning culture, right? So it's interesting because we hosted, Meghann hosted the event last year. We had Jordan, who used to be the CEO, I think, of Facebook Canada. Yes. And he mentioned something around sitting down. He was looking for a marketing executive. And someone referred him to a person that knew nothing about marketing. I think the person actually had a master's degree on origamis. And he was like, okay, I'll meet with the person. So he sat down for coffee, and he left the meeting and he hired the person. Because he said, the person will learn. They have all of the characteristics that I'm looking for. I am willing to make this bet. When you find someone with the brain power, the personality, that you just get to go and get the talent, right? One of the things that I want to create is I would love to be able to completely, or as much as possible, ignore resumes. I would love to get to know the person behind the resume. I would love to develop a muscle of people analytics, behavioral science, systems that are able to pinpoint the exact profile that we're looking for, regardless of traditional recruiting. Now, listen, this is very hard to do, right? But it's what we're in need of now more than ever. AI is evolving so fast that I can't expect people to always know what is happening. I don't always know what is happening. This is why the ability to learn and adapt quickly is so much more important, at least to us nowadays, than the traditional profile.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Paloma. I want to make sure we have some time for Q&A, so I have one last question for you. The accountability of everyone in this room is really to design systems that work for people, to ensure that they enhance that employee experience and they're delivering value. what advice would you give to them based on everything that you've shared with us today around how to design those systems and ultimately lead to those stronger human experiences?
So if you don't remember anything about this conversation and you can only take 3 things with you, the 3 things would be that. Nothing against best practices. Some of them are actually really good. Don't go through the knee-jerk motion of just adopting best practices because someone else is doing it. Look at the science. This can be a huge competitive advantage. It's right there, it's public, we're just not taking advantage of it. So number 1 is, let's become more scientific. Number 2 is, nurture this curiosity. I think that more than ever, because of the pace of change, curiosity is going to be one of the fundamental things that we need out of anyone today. And then number 3 is, let's think about ourselves as a product area as well, right? Like not only, but as well. We have historically possessed so much knowledge about what our people are looking for, who they are, what works, what doesn't work, what are the pain points, where the organizations are succeeding. Now, we have the technology to convert that into better products, better systems, using the knowledge that we've always possessed. So those would be the...
No, I love that. Thank you so much there. But I want to make sure that I stop talking and we hear from the audience and have some moment for questions.
And listen, again, we're big on like growth culture, and something that we tell everyone is like, challenge us, right? Like, give us the tough ones.
Over here.
So I appreciate the goal of wanting to kind of leave the resume behind and kind of focus on the human aspect as well. But I'm just wondering, how do you do that without kind of falling into like stereotypical ways of how a leader presents or how a best employee presents? Because, you know, sometimes people can show up in an interview or in a conversation very differently than they work. And also, you know, we have our prejudices about what we think a great employee looks like.
So just to make sure that I understand your question, how can we tailor our processes or systems for human beings without going to the, how can I say, the trap of labeling, right? Like in quote. So that's a good question. What I would say is, again, maybe a bit controversial, so challenge me, but we all have biases. That is a real concern. And one of the reasons why I'm also trying to move away from the regular kind of traditional recruitment process is because how many people have we met that are phenomenal at what they do, and maybe they showed up for one interview and it didn't go really well and that was it, right? Like no more chance. So part of it is actually to how do we get to know the human being through different lenses in different aspects to make sure that we don't let our biases get in the way, and to make sure that we have enough touch points, that we have enough data that doesn't focus only on one connect or on one event. The second thing is that what we're seeing in terms of technology evolution. If you're going to use an algorithm to help you filter talent, I'm not mentioning making the final decision, never, but just, you know, provide you with an assessment. Algorithms are not perfect. They make a lot of mistakes. The interesting thing is that they make less mistakes based on science and research than human beings do on average. So part of what we're building is agents that work in parallel with humans to challenge us, and through statistical analysis and the focus on certain characteristics, they can hold us accountable not to go into the trap of labeling, right? Like on a completely different angle, from a learning and development point of view, this is also why we're tailoring our systems for human cognition. Because maybe I think that Chris ingests information in a certain way, maybe I have this bias in my mind, but he doesn't. He ingests it in a very different way. So now, instead of a one-size-fits-all, we're going to have a little bit more of a menu, if that makes sense, so people can choose based on what works best for them. Does that answer your question?
I love the question and I love the answer about how does AI play a role in helping to manage our human bias and hold us accountable and challenge us. It's so vital and important, and it's something that you absolutely coach us all in, to not just think of what feels comfortable, what feels safe, what we're used to, and not hiring people that sort of just mirror us, but again, fill the gaps, push us, help us think in new ways, have that curiosity that we've been talking about throughout this conversation. We do have a little bit time left. I think there's one more question over here. We'll go to this woman right here and then finish maybe over here.
You mentioned being an early adopter of AI at your organization and embracing its use. With that in mind, I'm curious to know if you can speak to some of the guardrails and governance structures that you put in place to help with the responsible use of AI in positions that are typically privacy sensitive.
So that's a good point. We have a really good cybersecurity team that supported in putting on these guardrails. Sometimes it is about, it's not necessarily a question of, oh, do I adopt it or not? It's the how also you adopt it. For example, when we use Claude, you can connect it with the extensions, right? Like, we didn't make all extensions available right away, exactly because we wanted to test, like, if we connect, let's say, Slack, do we have the guardrails in place? So if I connect my Slack, it's only going to look at my Slack, right? Like, we're not going to have a backdoor that this person will be able to access the Slack of other individuals. The other thing that we have is trust is big on us. Mm-hmm. So even though we can monitor employee activity, all of that, we've opted not to. So that is the other guardrail that we have, right? Like, it's not because I am the chief people officer that I can go into my Claude and say, like, oh, I want you to search all the database of, like, what individuals are doing. Like, we don't do this. So as part of adopting it, right now, the Slack extension is available, right? Like, I use it and it adds a ton of value, but we made sure that it was tested before it was made available to us. The other thing is we're constantly, something that I think we do well is we're constantly in touch with other companies to see what are they doing, how they are evolving. We don't expect to get to the answers ourselves in isolation. We actually believe that having the conversation with what other leaders are doing in the market helps us and helps all of us to advance faster. So this is another thing that we've been doing as well. We've been in touch with other companies that are trailblazers in the adoption of technology, and we are testing how they're doing. Like, we test how we do things based on this. The final point here is we still take risks, right? Like, it's just, this is not about not taking risks. Is about, like, what are the risks that you are willing to take versus not, which is part of innovation, right? So
absolutely. I think there's, two really great points there. One being having a thought partner to help push you, to help guide others inside your organization if you're getting resistance, and having someone from the outside help to normalize, test new ideas. And then again, being very clear on risk tolerance is absolutely important. I know we're at time. There was one last question on this side of the room, if we have a moment. Great.
Thank you. So great presentation and chat. I'm interested on, you said, like, you're measuring everything and making your, like, L&D department so that somebody would want to buy, what you're producing. So I'd love to hear, like, what have you produced and, like, what are you most proud of in terms of what you produced with the science available and all of these, like, guardrails that you've put in place. Thank you.
So I have to police myself not to talk too much because we've created a lot of exciting things. Like, one, for example, is we have a wealth of products. We have hundreds of products at Purpose, and we want our people to learn about, like, to really understand not only what our products do, but how do those products add value to our clients, right? Especially because a bunch of us, if not all of us, are clients of the company as well. So we've always made this knowledge available, right? Like we have brochures, we have an updated website, we have lunch and learns with individuals in those business areas coming to present, but it was still a lot. So one of the things, for example, that we are in the process of launching right now is a micro-learning that is comprised of in-person, yes, we have in-person training, but also we have videos, we have a small text that people can absorb, almost like a TikTok format. Like we have a lot of different digestible formats. And the only thing it does is the person who owns, let's say, that fund, the person that developed the concept, the person who's picking the stocks behind it, talking about the ethos of it. And it's only for a few minutes, right? Like part of the challenge is, can you convey what that is in 3 minutes? And this is how, because again, we have hundreds of products, right? Like, so this is one of the things that we've developed based on this research that I mentioned around human cognition. Another example is mentorship. We run our internal mentorship program, and now we've created a very specific algorithm for the internal matching that takes into consideration so many aspects of what both individuals, mentee and mentor, are looking for, as well as their learning style, right? Like, so we can pair them together in the best possible way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Paloma. This has been a great conversation. Really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all today, and thank you again.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.